no matter the location. From O-A-K-L-A to L-V, I'm a Raider.
Raider Nation, what's going on? Mitchell Renz here from Chat Sports. You're watching the Raiders Report. We go live every single Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. So what are we going to be doing on today's show? We're going to be answering some questions here from Raider Nation, and we're going to be having a good time. So if you want to get your questions on the show, go ahead and use hashtag Raiders. The first question that's going to be flowing in here is going to be from one of our awesome watchers here, and I appreciate everyone who's come across this channel. The first one is coming in from, my opinion, will we take a running back in the draft? Personally, I don't think that the Raiders do, and if they do end up taking a running back, it's going to be a little bit later on. Maybe a player like a Javian Hawkins is probably the most likely option here for this Raiders football team. He's also been a player that's been linked to the Raiders in terms of like them being interested in terms of a video conference chat. So will they take a running back early? No, maybe they take one on day 3. All right, let's go to Cami Rancho. Thoughts on signing Tahir Whitehead again? Oh, man, I mean, you guys have been on fire over the last 2 weeks in terms of, like, asking, can the Raiders sign an old player that used to play for us? So Tahir Whitehead, he was one of the Raiders' captains in 2019. He had over 100 tackles. The Raiders let him go. They saved $7 million, and then he ended up signing a deal with the Carolina Panthers where he had 51 tackles. The reason why I am going to sit here and say no, you do not want to go ahead and bring back Tahir Whitehead, because Whitehead was one of the worst coverage linebackers in all of football. He got even worse this past season. Now, maybe you want to bring him in as a depth player. Sure. If he's willing to take a very cheap contract, like a 1-year vet minimum type of deal, you want to bring him in as depth? Okay, I'm on board for that. But I don't see Tahir Whitehead ultimately doing something like that. So what do you guys think here? Get your votes in. Type S for sign, or I want you to type P for pass. Should the Raiders bring back Tahir Whitehead after him spending 1 year with the Carolina Panthers? S for sign, or I want you to type P for pass. What up, Aiden? Mitch, we should trade for J.C. Jackson. So J.C. Jackson right now has got a second-round tender with the New England Patriots. My only problem is this. I'm not going to give up his second-round pick for J.C. Jackson. He's a good player. He's been able to perform well in New England. But the reason why I see J.C. Jackson performing well is because, and I've said this a few times, that defense is legit. If he goes to the Raiders, he's going to be asked to do a lot more. And a lot of times, you get a lot more exposed. So Jackson's a good player. If he's smart, he stays in New England, because or else, I honestly think he gets really exposed. All right, Michael, you're next up here on the Raiders Report with Yannick taking Clee's starting position on the right edge. Do you see Clee taking Maxx's starting role on the left? I do actually anticipate that. And I know a lot of people, when they saw this deal go down, they're like, oh, wow, Clee's going to lose a spot. What you're really going to see is Yannick play the most snaps. Clee and Maxx will probably mix it up here and there. But Maxx also now has the ability to be more featured in more of a pass rushing role. And Clee has the ability to be featured more in a run stopping role. I don't know how the snaps are going to be split up, but I do know this. Yannick's going to be on the field the most. I would then anticipate Cleveland Ferrell having the second most snaps behind him. Maxx Crosby at number 3. And then you're going to see a large mixture between guys like Solomon Thomas, like Jonathan Hankins as well. So we're going to be mixing in and out. But what the Raiders did, they added depth, and they're going to let their players do what they do best. And Maxx is getting after the quarterback. Clee right now has been stopping the run. What up, Eduardo Gonzalez? If Parsons falls to 17, should we take him? So Micah Parsons, linebacker out of Penn State, he's a very, very talented player, and a lot of times we always get hit with the, should the Raiders trade for Khalil Mack? I'm not saying that Micah Parsons is Khalil Mack, but if the Raiders use Parsons in terms of an edge rusher instead of just a true Mike middle linebacker, you're going to get a lot more out of him. He opted out in 2020, but in terms of like falling down to 17, I mean, there's a report out there that 15 teams will not have Micah Parsons on their big board because of some of the off-the-field concerns, because of some of the stuff that he did in college. Now, it's never been announced whether it's been true or not. However, if you're making up some of the things, some of the reports that happened with Micah Parsons, you got one hell of an imagination. That's all I'm going to say. But if Parsons falls to 17, I mean, I had him in one of my videos before. He's a very, very talented player. He fits multiple different needs, but we'll see if the Raiders end up pulling the trigger on him. Let's go to Minecraft Pig. I think you're new to the show. Hey, Mitch, love the show. Do you think the Raiders get Richard Sherman? I think that Gruden's move, but do you think that we can trade up in the draft? And if so, who do we take? In terms of trading up, I mean, there's only a handful of players that I'd say make a lot of sense in terms of trading up. Rashawn Slater makes some sense. I'd say Penei Sewell makes a lot of sense. But you also got to see some of those players really, really fall. I mean, Patrick Surtain, if he really falls, I'd be shocked if they traded up for him, and I hope they don't. But in terms of draft or going out and getting Richard Sherman, I think Richard Sherman is going to be that veteran cornerback that they bring in, the alpha that the Raiders have been looking for. Sure, you could also see somebody like Casey Hayward, who has more of a recent relationship with Gus Bradley, but if I'm a betting man, I already said before that I think Richard Sherman is likely going to be in silver and black. It helps the young guys like Arnett, helps the young guys like Trayvon Mullen, but he can also be that player coach, and I know that's something that Gruden wants. Raider Nation, help me get to 77,000 subscribers because I've been itching, like in a lot of weird places that I can't really show you because I want to be able to do another Raiders mock draft. And I promise you this, when we hit 77,000 subs, I'll be able to make another mock. So if you haven't already, hit that big red button and subscribe to the Raiders Report. We need like 500 more to go. 500 could easily be done this week, and I want to be able to do a Raiders mock draft on next live show on Tuesday. So let's make it happen. Hit that big red button and subscribe. All right, we got Sean is beast mode. Why no rugs in the park with Carr? I don't know, man. It's a good question. Maybe it was just John Brown, Derek Carr. They just called each other up real quick and said, hey, why don't we get together? Why don't we run some routes? But would I like to see more of that from Ruggs? Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the players that did it the most last year with Carr, that sounds kind of weird. But it's Hunter Renfrow, Zay Jones, and now that John Brown's stepping up, I did like that a lot. You're referring to the video that was out with DC with John Brown running routes. But yes, I'm with you. I wish Ruggs would have been there too. But maybe he had some other things going on. You never know. Let's go to Rex FSF. Okay, Raiders are looking for speed. Would you sign Marquise Goodwin? Would I sign Marquise Goodwin? So, Marquise Goodwin is an absolutely phenomenal track star, okay? That doesn't always mean that you're going to be a phenomenal player. And in terms of 40 time, he ran the exact same 40 time as Henry Ruggs. One of the biggest concerns with me with Goodwin is this. He just can't stay healthy. In 2019, he had 12 catches, 186 yards, and suffered a pretty wicked knee injury. And from everything that I read on him, it's a chronic knee injury. So he missed all of last season, basically held out. He was then released by the San Francisco 49ers. Now, there's been some reports out there of him potentially being able to go to the Seattle Seahawks, but, I think the Raiders are set at the wide receiver market. But what do y'all think? Do the Raiders need to sign another wide receiver? Y for yes and for no? If you're going to type your Y for yes, it shouldn't be Marquise Goodwin. I get it. He's got elite speed. The Raiders want to try to stretch it out. They want to try to find a guy who can, really get things north and south. It's just not Marquise Goodwin at this point. It's a player that I liked a lot a few years ago, so I'm actually going to go ahead and type my N for no. All right, we got Pete Goff. What up, my man? Who do you think should start at center, James or Martin? O-line just got weaker, in my opinion. The O-line did get weaker. However, the O-line wasn't worth the money that the Raiders were paying. They were ranked 10th against the run last year, 27th against the pass, I believe, or those numbers could be flipped. Either or. You had the number one most expensive offensive line, and the Raiders did a pretty solid job last year with all the injuries that they had. But I actually think this is easy for me. It's Andre James. I know we haven't seen a lot of him yet, but I've also seen Nick Martin. If I don't want to see a below-average center continue to go out there, especially when you already paid James. Let's see what he's got. If he's good, you keep rolling with him. And if he's not good, maybe you try to get him a little bit better. Nick Martin's not the future of the Raiders. Andre James is more the future. The Raiders are building more for the future, which kind of sucks a little bit because we've been in a rebuild, but that's the way the Raiders are going. All right, what up, NA Warrior 69? Our wide receiver group is already out working with DC on their own with time building that continuity. So you have to agree we're going to kill it this season. I mean, I'm hoping, but just because you're doing a few routes where nobody's covering it doesn't mean you're going to kill it. I mean, let's be real. Are you more confident in the Raiders' offense last season or this season? I mean, I think that the Raiders' offense last season was a lot better in terms of offensive line talent. Probably was better. Your wide receiver core, nobody expected Nelson Aguilar, but replacing that's not going to be easy. Sure, you're expecting more from Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs in year two, but I actually could sit here and say that I think that the offense last year was better, and until I see something different, it's going to be hard for me to realistically change my mind. Let's go to Junior Perez. Shout out to Tom and Jerry. Imagine if we trade Marcus to Bears for Khalil Mack. I mean, imagine. It'd be insane. It would be something that I obviously would love, but there's a 0% chance, zero Chucky heads, we'll just cover all those up, that the Bears trade Khalil Mack for Marcus Mariota. If they do, there's going to be some riots. Have you looked at Jordan Smith from UAB, and what about trading for Orlando Brown? Orlando Brown is something that I've talked about multiple times here on the Raiders Report because apparently they're looking for a first-round pick. And if you could trade pick number 17 for Brown, it would definitely pique the Ravens' interest. The issue is not many teams have been that interested in trading a first-round pick yet for Brown, who has been very good. Now, he wants to get paid like a left tackle. I know some people are like, oh, Mitch, he's not going to play left tackle. You're 100% right. My thing with this is, like, you could put him at right tackle. You'd have to pay him like a left tackle. And for everyone out there like, oh, the Raiders won't do that, they did it with Trent Brown. They made Trent Brown the highest paid tackle in the National Football League, and he played the right side. So the Raiders have already done it before, and he would fit a major need. And if Orlando Brown was coming out in the draft, sure, he'd be an older prospect at 24, but he'd be up there with one of the best linemen in the entire National Football League. All right, what up, Caleb Landry? Please explain to the fans that no trade clause doesn't mean Mariota can't get traded, but rather he has to agree to it. You're right. If you see a no trade clause, you're 100% right. It basically means, like, if the Raiders say, hey, Marcus, you're going to go there, and he says no, he doesn't have to go there. If they're like, hey, Marcus, you're going to go here, and he's like, okay, I'll do that, then he can end up going. All right, E-Demand Zing 2021. If Whittle, I think you mean Waddle, or Smith, the top two wide receivers in the draft, fall to 17, do the Raiders take one? You're also missing Jamar Chase. So Jamar Chase, to me, I actually think could be the number one receiver in this year's draft. But do the Raiders take one of those guys? I'm simply going to say no. I've actually already done a mock draft before where I had Waddle falling down to the Raiders at 17. As much as I like those playmakers, right? Like, I really, truly do. I feel like the nation would be in an absolute uproar if you took another wide receiver in round one. And those guys are extremely talented, but also the wide receiver class is pretty talented this year. It's pretty deep. I'd actually maybe argue the most deep at any position. Right tackle's a bigger need. Defense is a bigger need. As much as I like those guys, I'm going to sit here and say no. All right, y'all. What I want you to do is name a team that the Raiders could trade back with. Go down in the comments section and let me know. I'm genuinely curious. We got 954 people watching right now. So if you could, please go down in the comments. Let me know. Name a team that you think the Raiders could go trade back with. We can give some shout-outs here. I see some people saying the Titans, the Ravens, the Saints, throwing those in there as well. Let me know. Somebody said Kyle Pitts at 17. I would be absolutely shocked. All right, y'all. Let's go to Cali King 916. Mitch, John Brown will help Ruggs and Edwards, but Snead would be extra. I think Edwards will have a blowout season. I think you mean breakout season. Blowout season means like he's going to, I feel like, get hurt. If you were to ask me which receiver do I think has a better chance of being a true number one receiver for the Raiders, I would say Bryan Edwards instead of Henry Ruggs. And there was actually a report that came out 2 weeks ago that the people inside the Raiders organization, their coaches, are actually more confident in Bryan Edwards than Ruggs, which definitely scares me. But I'm also hoping that just means Edwards can, really truly be that dominant number one receiver. All right, what's up, Steven Johnson? Hey, Mitch, love the show and the work you guys do. Who do you think is the best player in the draft to fill the Leo position for the Raiders? So the interesting thing here for the Raiders in terms of their linebacker positions is going to be this. Like, you're already seeing reports that Nicholas Morrow is going to play the Mike or weak side linebacker or strong side linebacker. I see Corey Littleton probably playing weak side. Also, I've heard a lot of reports that Javen White looks pretty good in terms of being able to go sideline to sideline. In terms of, like, your Leo, the Raiders, I don't know what they're going to do at the linebacking position. So, like, if you're trying to find just more depth there, Jeremiah Wosukur-Moore is somebody that I absolutely love. He can play a lot of different positions. Micah Parsons, those are probably my top two linebackers in this year's draft. All right, we got Chris Smith. It's my birthday Thursday, and I'd like a birthday shout-out. So what I want everyone to do, type HBD in the comments to Chris Smith. Judging by your picture, you look to be about 6 or 7 perfect years old. I'm not 100% sure, but happy birthday, Chris. I know you're always watching the show. Much love to you. If you want some catnip, hit me up. I can probably send you some. All right, what up, Hector Perez? Hey, Mitch, do we trade up to 4 with the Falcons? So there was a report out there that the Falcons would be open to trading the number 4 pick. If you're going to trade up to 4, you got to give up 17. You got to give up 48 this year. You got to give up 79, 80, and then honestly, y'all, probably your first-round pick next year as well. Like, I understand in theory it sounds cool, but that's a lot of draft capital for a team that has just way too many needs right now to fill.